Hey there guys, Next Striker here, back again for another video, and today we're going to have another Young Justice Season 3 Outsiders discussion, and we're going to be discussing Superboy. Now, Superboy is someone that we don't really know too much of what he's doing. We know that he's going to be doing a sort of rogue hero mission thing alongside with Nightwing and Black Lightning, and I believe Artemis as well is going to be joining them. But this video, I'm going to be talking about the death of Connor Kent, aka Superboy, and how it's very likely that this could indeed happen in Season 3 or in the near future. So, first things first, Connor Kent is a character that does canonically die in DC Comics. He died in, it was one of the big crossovers, I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but it was where all these different Supermen were coming together and he punched a hole in the space-time continuum. It's really weird, but basically, he ends up dying in this battle. And it's very significant for a lot of the characters, right? Now, it was very important for Tim Drake. He took on the Superboy colors, and instead of having the traditional Robin costume, he had the red and black costume. Now, they couldn't really do that with this sort of universe because both Tim Drake and Dick Grayson's Robin both had red and black because everyone loves the red and black Tim Drake Robin costume. They've been using it in a lot of animated properties, if you guys will notice. Even, they gave those colors to Jason Todd in the Under the Red Hood film as well, so very popular. But it is very significant for Tim Drake because him and Superboy were close in the comics. Now, of course, in Young Justice, I don't even know if they've interacted, if I can remember or not. So, I mean, they could build that up as a thing later on, but anyway. So Superboy dying is very likely. Now, people will say, oh no, there's no way they're going to kill him. But they already killed Wally West off. I mean, let's not forget that. They've killed other characters. And since Season 3 is going towards this sort of adult vibing thing where it's going to be like the same series, but it's going to have more adult themes. So a lot of people think, oh, well, maybe they'll do Oracle and they'll show the Killing Joke stuff. Or maybe they'll show Jason Todd coming back and getting blown up by the Joker and all this stuff. I mean, they can do a lot of stuff like that now. So, you know, I think it's very likely that Superboy could die. It could potentially be a gruesome death. I don't know. But that doesn't really matter. It's more of a significance to the characters of the team and what they can do with those characters. Now, I really do like Connor. I wouldn't say he's my favorite. I'd say my favorite members would be Dick Grayson, Robin, Nightwing, depending on where he is in the series, Artemis, and Wally West, Kid Flash. Those are my favorite team members, but you know, nothing against Superboy. Not like I want him to die. It's just that with these superhero series, they have to raise the stakes, you know. And given that they've already killed off a major cast member, now I do think Wally is going to come back through the Speed Force or through some sort of funky rift in time continuum sort of thing. But it doesn't mean that he has to die for good. But there's a couple of things they could do aside from like character growth aspects. So, of course, you know, anyone that's close to him, like the original team in Young Justice, all of them could have a sort of growth moment from that. But what they could also do is they could introduce Jonathan Kent. Now, see, this is kind of interesting because we know Robin's going to be in Season 3 of Young Justice. We just don't know who the Robin is going to be. Now, some people are saying it's Tim Drake. Some people are saying it's Damian Wayne. However, if it's Damian Wayne, there is a comic series that's actually really popular with a lot of people that read DC Comics called Super Sons. And in that comic, Damian Wayne teams up with Superman's actual biological child, Jonathan Kent, who becomes the new Superboy. Now, they could have two Superboys at the same time. They could do that, but I don't think they will. Now, of course, in order for them to get there, certain things have to move along. I don't think they would do that in Season 3. I think that would be more of a Season 4, Season 5 sort of scenario if they get that far. But to have Damian and Jonathan, who are basically polar opposite characters, team up and have that dynamic in Young Justice would be really cool. But in order for that to happen, it kind of makes me wonder, okay, so if they do that, can we still have Connor be in the series as he is and have two Superboys? He could be a mentor to Jonathan Kent if they want to go down that route. Now, that's certainly an interesting aspect they could take. Now, of course, in order to have Jonathan Kent, you got to have Superman get married to Lois Lane and have a baby. But given that we have time skips between every season, I mean, it's very likely it could have happened already. We don't know. So never count anything out of the question. Damian probably does exist in Young Justice as well. We probably just don't know about him yet. Or he could be the Robin in Season 3. We're not sure. But there's a lot that can be done with Superboy's death. Now, like I said earlier, that doesn't mean that Jonathan Kent has to be gone forever. Actually, in Rebirth, after all this time, I mean, we're talking decades, but this character, I don't think he ever came back, which is kind of sad because, you know, a lot of people really like him and all that. But Superboy never came back up until Rebirth. And in Rebirth, he came back as an older version of the future Superman, I believe. So there's a storyline in Jeff Johns' Teen Titans, which the team was Tim Drake, Cassandra, Wonder Girl, Connor Kent, Superboy, I think it was Bart Allen, Kid Flash, and Beast Boy, Raven, Starfire. I think that was it. There might have been other members that I'm just not thinking of. But anyway, so there's a storyline where those characters go into the future and they see future versions of themselves. And in that storyline, they see that Tim Drake is Batman, Superboy is the new Superman, etc., etc. Now, that future doesn't come to be as we know. However, that's something that they could play with. And again, in Rebirth, when Superboy, Connor Kent, comes back to life, and people have actually kind of forgotten him, he comes back, but he is the future Superman. And I guess that's his title. He's older. He's not really like a boy anymore. He's, you know, he looks more like what Superman would look like, I suppose. So that's something they could do with him. Having two Supermen, it would be a little odd. But then again, it's like, this is DC we're talking about. I mean, there's multiple versions of characters and all this. So it would be something different to do with Connor Kent's sort of arc, because he didn't really have a lot to do in Season 2. Him and Megan, which were pretty prominent in Season 1, they didn't really have a lot of time in Season 2. So I think in Season 3 they would definitely need something. And, you know, since we don't know anything about Megan yet, I'm interested to see what they do with Miss Martian. And if something happens to Connor, obviously that's going to be a huge deal with her. So yeah, and it'd also be interesting if some of the characters from Young Justice ended up having kids. So, like Connor and Miss Martian, if that was ever a thing, that would be interesting because they're not canonically a couple in the comics, so they'd have to make up a new character for that. And then as far as Wally and Artemis, I mean, that could have happened in the time skip, you know, after he was gone. That would be interesting as well, since they're not canonically together. There's a lot they could do. And death is something, it's a story element that is used to make it more real. Basically, it's to where it's not safe every season. Like, it has you guessing, kind of like with what Game of Thrones does to an extreme, where you don't know. Characters could die. You don't know. It's the same thing with comics. I mean, they kill off characters now notoriously. In comic books, do characters actually ever stay dead? Not really. I mean, characters come back all the time because they're popular, right? So, I mean, the same thing could happen with Wally. Same thing could happen with Connor if he died, or any of the other cast members. I have done a video on this before talking about who's the most likely to die in Young Justice Season 3, but I think that Connor definitely has a really big chance because it was a big moment when he died in the comics, and since they pay homage to the comics, I mean, it's a very likely thing that it could happen, right? So, tell me below what you think, like, who is the most likely character of the team. Now, we're talking the old members of the team, or we're talking potentially in the new members of the team. I've thrown some other ones out there. A spoiler could be a fake death. I don't see her dying for real. We could have one of the more legacy characters die off. I mean, you never know. I think Nightwing, though, is probably the safest because he's so popular. And whenever they kill him off in comics, people get so mad. I don't think they're going to do that in Young Justice, but you never know. I would be sad because Nightwing's my favorite. But tell me below what you think, who you think is the most likely to die in this season, if you think anyone's going to die. Now, granted, we could have characters die in between seasons 2 and 3, and we wouldn't even know until the season started, because that's what happened with seasons 1 and 2. So, character deaths, man, they happen. They happen in Young Justice. This isn't the first time, and this is not the last time. Characters are going to die, especially with Darkseid on the loose, and Darkseid killing off Superboy. I mean, that sounds like a great epic battle to me if he ends up beating Darkseid at the cost of his own life. So, That's my theory. If there is a member that's going to die, it's him. Of course, I want to keep the band together, but realistically, I mean, it's likely to happen. You know, he could very well die. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this topic, and make sure to subscribe if you like. Comment below your thoughts, and check out my playlist of Young Justice videos if you want to see more, and my social media. That's all I had for now. Catch you guys later.